Hello and welcome to this lecture. What is PostgreSQL? PostgreSQL is also pronounced as Postgres. So if you hear people saying Postgres, they mean PostgreSQL. This basically is a relational database management system, just like Oracle or Microsoft SQL Server, or things like MySQL or MySQL. So it has basically the same features and functionalities of a relational database management system. It also complies to ANSI. ANSI basically is the American National Standard Institute for SQL, which is Structural Query Language. So it also conforms to this standard. So the SQL you use for the Postgres database also follows the ANSI standard. So there are certain ways you write SQL statements that is applicable to all relational databases. Postgres is a general purpose database management system, so you can use it basically for a variety of things. It is also object relational, so it's known as an object relational database management system. It is free and open source. By open source, that means people can contribute to make it better. It is also platform independent. What that means is that you can install it on a Windows platform, Mac platform, a Unix platform. So it's platform independent. It's not pegged to one platform. So you can use it across multiple platforms. It is stable and requires minimum maintenance. So most applications that uses the Postgres database, you don't really need to spend a lot of time in the maintenance because the database itself is quite stable. The database has large storage. It also has a good performance. It's fast. It is extensible. Basically what that means is that you can define your own data types, index types. You can also create your own custom plugins. The support for the Postgres is quite substantial. There is an active community that you can post questions to and also receive answers from. So that is it for this lecture. The key thing here is to note that the Postgres database is a relational database management system, just like Oracle and Microsoft SQL Server. It is free and open source. It is platform independent. And the SQL you use to query the database also follows the ANSI standard. Many thanks for watching and bye for now. Hello and welcome. In this video, I will be explaining the basic system architecture of PostgreSQL. So I'm going to explain how the parts of PostgreSQL interact with each other. So PostgreSQL uses a client-server model, and a PostgreSQL session consists of the following programs which cooperate their processes together. So we have a server process, which is referred to as the actual Postgres, and the server process basically manages database files. It accepts connections to the database from client applications. It also performs database actions on behalf of the clients. So the database server program is called Postgres. We also have the user's client, which is the front end. This refers to the user's computer that is used to access the server. So this could be a laptop or it could be a desktop. So the user's client front end, it's also an application that wants to perform database operations. So you can have an application inside a PC or a laptop that wants to perform database operations. Client applications can be very diverse in nature. A client could be a text-oriented tool, a graphical application, a web server that accesses the database in order to display web pages, or a specialized database maintenance tool. Some client applications are also supplied with the PostgreSQL distribution. So this is what a typical client-server architectural model looks like. So we have the client-server application. The client and the server can be on different hosts. All right. In that case, if they're on different hosts, they can communicate over TCP/IP network connection. So always bear that in mind, because the files that can be accessed on a client machine might not be accessible or might only be accessible using a different file name on the database server machine. So this here will be the actual Postgres server, and these laptops here will be representing the client application that wants to connect to the database to use its services. A PostgreSQL server can handle multiple concurrent connections from clients. That means it can handle several connections at the same time. And the way it does this, it starts or forks a new process for each connection. And from that point on, the client and the new server process communicate without intervention by the original Postgres process. So the server is always running, usually available 24/7 and waiting for connections, while the client doesn't have to always run. The client can connect and go. Once they finish using the services, they can disconnect, but the server, which is this master server here, has to be up and running all the time, waiting for client connections. So this is the basic architecture of a PostgreSQL. Thanks for watching, and bye for now. Hello and welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, I'll be showing you a few companies that have built products, solutions, websites, and tools using the Postgres database. I will start with the biopharm sector. So in the biopharm sector, we've got these few companies listed as using the Postgres database. So we've got companies like American Chemical Society, BASF, Agricultural Product Division, and we've got the Greenet Tech Inc. So these are just a few companies listed as using the Postgres database in the biopharm sector. Next, let's have a look at the e-commerce sector and see who's using the Postgres database. So we've got companies like CD Baby, Champion Products, Etsy.com. We've got Flight Aware, Flight Stats, Red Sheriff, whitepages.com. So these are companies listed as using the Postgres database. Next, we'll look at the education sector. In the education sector, we've got these institutions listed as using the Postgres database. All these information here have been obtained from the postgres.org website. So if you go to that website, look for featured users, you see all these listed there. Next, let's look at the finance and the gaming sector and see who is using the Postgres database. So in the finance, we've got 3 companies listed here. Among them is the Trust Commerce. And in the gaming, we've got Moby Games listed as using the Postgres database. Next, we are going to have a look at who's using the Postgres database in the government sector. So in government, we've got all these listed as using the Postgres database. Among them are the City of Garden Grove, that's in California. We've got the National Weather Service. We've got United Nations Children's Fund. We've got the U.S. Agency for International Development, U.S. Department of Labor, U.S. General Services Administration, U.S. State Department. Some key government departments here using the Postgres database. Well, we're going to now move on to the healthcare sector, manufacturing, and see who's using the Postgres database. So in healthcare, we've got calorieking.com, and we've got things like Shannon Medical Center. Manufacturing, we've got exo2.net Corp using the Postgres database. And in the media sector, we've got a few listed here, among which are Macworld, Penny Arcade, the Washington Post, and the Greenpeace. Greenpeace is quite important here. I mean, it's well known, so to know that they use Postgres is interesting. Next, we'll move on to open source projects. There are some open source projects that actually use the Postgres database. So in the open source projects area, we've got things like Debian, FreshPorts, GForge, the LAMP. LAMP basically is a LAMP stack, which includes Linux, Apache, PHP, and a few others. And we've got the SourceForge as well, which is quite popular for various types of downloads. So they also use the Postgres database. So next we'll look at the retail sector. We've got a few listed here in the retail sector, things like Safeway, Sutaya, the Rockport Company, among a few. They are listed as using the Postgres database. Let's move on to technology. We've got Apple, Fujitsu, Omnity, Red Hat, Cyrus IT, Sun Microsystem, among others, using the Postgres database. Also some telecom companies as well. Among the telecom companies using the Postgres, we've got Cisco, Juniper Networks, NTT Data, Optus, Rambler Internet Holdings, Skype, and Telstra. So these are the telecoms companies listed on the Postgres website as using their product or using the Postgres database. So that's it for this lecture. In this lecture, we went through a list from various sectors of various types of companies that actually have created products around the Postgres database. If you want to find out more, just head over to postgres.org and /featured users. That will give you a list of who's using the Postgres database. Most of what I've shown you here in this lecture was actually obtained from the Postgres website. Thanks for watching, and bye for now. Hello and welcome. In this lecture, I'll be showing you some minimum requirements that has to be met before PostgreSQL can be installed on your computer. So these are the minimum requirements, regardless whether if you're using a Windows, a Linux, or a Mac. So these are the operating systems that you can install PostgreSQL if you are on a Windows. So it doesn't matter if you're on a 32-bit or a 64-bit Windows operating system. This B here basically means bit. I just left out the I and the T to create some space. So if you've got Windows 7, 8, or 10, then your machine should be ready to accept the installation. Also, if you have Windows 2008 server, Windows 2012 server, you need a minimum of 1 gigahertz of processor speed. This is just the absolute minimum. You need at least 1 gigabyte of RAM. You need at least a gigabyte of hard disk space. You need an account that has an administrator role that you can use to perform the installation. However, if you've got an account that's got an admin role or privilege, you can usually right click on the installation file and select run as admin. For Linux, if you are running a Linux 32 or 64-bit, these are the operating systems you can use. You can use a CentOS 6.x and 7, Ubuntu 14.04, Debian 7 and 8, Oracle Enterprise Linux 6 and 7, and again, a minimum of 1 gigahertz processor speed is required. 1 gigabyte RAM. You need to have a super user privilege on an account. You need that before you can perform the installation. If you are on a Mac, you can install PostgreSQL on OS X Server 10.8, 10.9, and 10.10. You need a minimum 1 gigahertz processor power or speed, 1 gigabyte RAM or memory. You also need a super user account with super user privileges to perform the installation. So these are the bare minimum requirements if you're running Windows, Linux, or Mac and you wish to install PostgreSQL. These are the absolutely bare minimum requirements. So that is it. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, I will be showing you how to download the latest version of PostgreSQL for Windows. We are going to be downloading the latest version for Windows. We are going to head over to this link here to begin the download. https://www.postgresql.org. So let's head over to that location. So this is the site for PostgreSQL. So once you're here, make sure you're on the download page by clicking on this download button. And once you've clicked on the download button, it will give you various options. We are interested in the Windows option, so we're going to click on Windows. Click Windows, and that will give you this page. We want to download the installer to make it easier for us, so click download the installer, and that will take you to the installer page. And the first thing you need to do is select your version. We want to use the latest, so I'm going to click on the drop down, and this is the latest. So I'm going to click 9.6.2. The next thing we need to do is select our operating system. So I am running Windows, so I'm just going to select this, and it will be Windows x86 followed by your bit. If you're running 32, you click 32. If you're running 64, you click on this Windows x86-64. I'm running 32, so I'm going to click on this option. If you're not sure if you're running 32 or 64 bit, the way you find out is go to your start menu, right click on my computer, go properties, and there's an option here that says system type. Within the system type, it will tell you if it's a 32-bit or 64-bit operating system. So I've already made my selection, which is a 32-bit. So I'm going to click download now. So I'm just wait for a few minutes for the download to start. So that's my download. It has started. It is 156 megabytes in size. So please make sure you've got enough space on your disk to accommodate this file. The download has completed. So if I click on this little arrow here and click show in folder, it will take me to the location of the downloaded file. So my file has been downloaded into my downloads directory. So in the next lecture, this is where I'm going to install the software from. So that is it for this lecture. In this lecture, we learned how to download PostgreSQL for Windows. Many thanks for your patience and thanks for watching. Bye. Hello and welcome. In this lecture, I will be showing you how to install PostgreSQL for Windows. Please note that if you are running Windows 8 or Windows 10, you will need to create a Windows user account that has administrator role or privilege. You then need to use that user account you've created to run the installation. For example, you can create an account for the installation called Postgres and make sure it's got local admin privileges and use that account to run the PostgreSQL installation files. I will be installing on a Windows 7 machine, so I don't need to create a special account for that. So locate your downloaded files. Mine was saved to my download folder, which is this folder here. So all I need to do is just run the installation. So I just right click on the file and select run as administrator to begin the installation process. So it will initialize the files, which can take a while. The processing power on your local computer basically will determine how long the installation will take. But on an average, it take more than 5-10 minutes. So once you're done, you should get, once it's initialized, you should get this screen come up. Click on next. You are presented with an installation directory, and there is a suggestive location here. I would recommend you accept that. If you don't want that, you can click here and select a location where you want it installed, but I will strongly advise you just accept it, especially as this is a test environment. Click next. Again, you're prompted for a location for the data directory. A location has been put in there for you. You can accept that or select your own. I will advise you accept the location that has been suggested for you. Click on next. This is important. You need to enter a password and also retype the password. This password you will need to enter each time you try to connect to the database. Very important you enter a password that you can remember. I have entered the password and I've also retyped the password. So enter one you can remember and click next. This is auto-populated. If you've already got the PostgreSQL installed, then that may be the reason why this is not populated, because it tends to use this port number. So if you haven't got it installed and this port number is not available, then you need to do some troubleshooting, because this port has to be available for PostgreSQL. So this is usually auto-populated for you. Click on the next button. Again, this should be auto-populated. Accept the default locale. Click next. It says setup is now ready to begin installing PostgreSQL on your computer. Click next. And this process can take a few minutes, again depending on the processing power of your local computer, so please be patient. Once the installation is complete, you will get a screen like this come up. You can uncheck this. This stack builder basically enables you to install other stuff that you may need for the PostgreSQL installation. But because this is a test environment, I'll just uncheck that and click finish. So we have successfully completed the installation of PostgreSQL. Thank you for your time and bye for now. Hello and welcome. In this lecture, I'm going to show you how you can verify the PostgreSQL installation for Windows. So a very quick way to verify the installation is just to see if we can access the default database. So click on your start menu, click all programs, and within the all program there should be one for Postgres. So look for the PostgreSQL 9.6 folder, click to expand it, and click to open up pgadmin 4. That is the admin console that you can use to administer the PostgreSQL database. Please be patient. This can sometimes take a little while to open up. Okay, so mine is just about to open up now. When the pgadmin 4 tool opens up, this is what you'll see. So to verify the installation was successful, we should be able to connect to the servers. So click on this plus button here to expand it. If you can see this, if you can expand it, that means the installation has been successful. However, if you click on this plus sign here, it will give you a window asking for your password. This will be the password that you set during the installation. So just enter that password in there and then you can click OK. You can save the password if you wish, but I don't recommend it so that you don't form a habit of doing that. That can be a security risk in a production environment. But if you're on a test environment, it doesn't really matter, but it's good to cultivate good habits even if it's a test environment. Once you've entered your password, click OK, and if it works okay, you should get a different screen here. So this is the dashboard. You should get a message that pops up to tell you that you have connected to the server. That briefly pops up, then disappears. So this is a server. So if you can expand the databases, and this is a default database that was added. It tells you here databases 1. So if you can expand that, that means the installation has been verified and successful, because you can access aspects of the database. So while you've got the databases selected, you can flick through different aspects here. This is a dashboard area. You can click on the properties. It shows you a different view for the properties. It tells you the name of the database and give you some other information there. And if you click on the SQL here, it gives you the SQL that was used to create the database. If we click on statistics, again give you different views here, so you can read through, and then click on dependencies. If there's any dependencies, it will show the dependencies. So let me just click on the dashboard. So if you can access all these and move things around, your installation has been successful and verified. So that's it for this lecture. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.